Hey guys, and welcome to Petrol Ped, and welcome to what I think is going to be a really interesting video. Now, I've never been lucky enough to have a company car or indeed a company car allowance with any of my jobs so far. So when I was contacted a couple of weeks ago by Willmott Dixon and invited to come along and see an initiative that they're running with their company car fleet, I just had to say yes. Sadly, we've not been blessed with the best weather today, but what we have got is a really interesting range of electric, plug-in hybrid and hybrid vehicles. And I'm going to be asking the question, if you drive a company car, should you be considering a move away from the internal combustion engine to electric or hybrid vehicles? If you are, this video is for you. Now, the initiative that Willmott Dixon are running is basically all around their carbon neutrality. They're already a carbon neutral company, but I'm not sure how many of you are kind of aware of the different levels of what we mean by carbon neutrality. You can be carbon neutral by offsetting your carbon. So clearly things like cars and central heating and air conditioning in offices emit carbon. And by offsetting, you invest in development projects, often sort of planting trees and those types of things to offset your carbon emissions. So they already do that. The next step, however, is to look at reducing the amount of carbon that they produce. And clearly a company car fleet is going to be a huge contributor to that. Now, there are two elements here. There's the company cars that they actually have on their car list, and then there's the car allowances that they have. Internally they call that the grey fleet, so people using their own private cars for business use. And this initiative is basically to try and help people understand what options are out there in terms of if you like, carbon friendly cars, electric or hybrid vehicles. So they've got a range of cars that the people, their employees can play with for the next week, and we're going to have a look round to just have a bit of a chat about some of them. And you can see I'm flanked here by an eGolf on my right and a Renault Zoe on my left, pure electrics, but we've also got a couple of hybrids up there too. So I thought it'd be interesting to have a chat about this and also take the cars out for a drive. I can't, in the time I've got for this video, do a full review, but we can certainly have a chat about what they're like as an everyday vehicle. Okay, so let's take a bit of a look at the cars that we've got to play with today. First of all, we've got a Renault Zoe Pure EV. I am very, very tempted to take that car out because I just think it looks cool, and inside it's really smart as well. I don't know if you can hear the thunder. Oh my goodness, hopefully we'll avoid that, especially with driving electric cars. Then we've got an eGolf, again pure EV. The thing I really like about that is it just looks like a Golf, but it is a completely electric car. And then we've got two Hyundai Ioniqs. We've got the one on the right hand side here, that is a plug-in hybrid, and then we've got the pure hybrid. They do also a pure EV version of the Ioniq, which is very confusing. Now we'll have a play with those. I'm tempted to take out the plug-in hybrid of those. So let's take a look at each of these, quickly run them up the road. I'm also going to get on camera one of the guys from Willmott Dixon's sustainability group just to talk about the impact. We're kind of thinking about the impact of on their business reducing their carbon footprint, but what about you as a company car driver? What financial benefit as well as ecological benefit would you get if you went from having basically a diesel or petrol vehicle and then you got into one of these? These electric cars make lots of bongs, that's for sure. Look at it. Well guys, this is Jono from Willmott Dixon. We just jumped in the Renault Zoe because Of all of them, I think this is the coolest looking car here, don't you? It's
small and nippy,
It's small and nippy, and it just looks really cool. So we're not going to do a full test drive. We're going to whiz up the road and just have a feel for the car, but just have a bit of a chat about the whole project you've got going, because I just think it's really, really interesting. Normal electric car thing, complete silence, which always puts me off.
Is the engine on?
Is the engine on? It's in drive, and then we can take the handbrake off.
Take the handbrake off.
Off we go. So which one you've had a drive of this one?
I've driven this before, yeah. This is about the only electric vehicle I think I've ever driven.
Really?
Actually.
Apart from a Renault Twizy.
Apart from the Twizy.
Yeah. You've not got the Twizy on the company car list?
Not yet. Although I should state that it probably won't go on the company car list.
No, this is true. So the whole purpose of this initiative you've got, I find really, really interesting. So you've got both company cars that you have on a car list, but you've also got a car allowance that your employees can have, and then they can go and choose that to basically buy whatever they like.
Choose their own vehicle completely. Yeah. So we have a dedicated company car list, which we have some control over. Yeah. So for example, we set a company car emission cap. Yeah. Which is good, great. We set it at 120 grams per kilometre. Okay. So that's really good at controlling the what I call efficiency. It's an efficiency measure. So you can control how efficient your cars are on the company car list. So our average company car emissions now are about 108. Okay. Which is great. Yeah. You know, think about all the carbon that could be saved from there. Yeah. Whereas on the grey fleet, for example, it's a little bit more difficult. You get into a bit more of an emotive subject. You know, imagine going up to someone and trying to, oh, you've got to have this car. Trying to, sell them a car. It's quite difficult. People love their cars. So we're trying to see how can we have more of an impact on our grey fleet. Yeah. And that's a real big struggle for us. But it's also where the biggest, what I call bang for our buck, is probably going to be as well.
This is all right. So first of all, first impressions of this little Zoe, it's got really powerful brakes, by the way. It's not going to be your kind of Tesla Model X acceleration, because that's not what it's intended for. But from a price point of view and from a range point of view, it's for around town driving speed, a great little thing.
Brilliant, isn't it? It feels great.
Yeah, it's funky display and so on. So yeah, so the whole idea about this week is to allow people to experience these cars and take them out for a drive and just see what they're like.
I think it's a big misconception, isn't it? You think about an electric car, you don't know what you're getting yourself into. Yeah. Whereas actually when you start driving it, and even now I've realised I can't hear the engine, actually you just get used to it and you feel the power. Yeah. And it's actually, hold on, this car does work. Yeah. Whilst if you plan your journey, the range is fine. Most people only do an average of 10 to 20, 30 miles a day to the office and back. So actually, really practical. Yeah. And
here we are, 50 mile an hour limit on the road, 44 miles an hour. It's just like any other car. There'd be no difference at all.
No, true.
So what financially though, for me, is if I went from, I don't know, a 2-litre diesel Golf or A3 Audi or something like that into an electric car, there's going to be financial savings for me on a number of levels, aren't there?
There certainly will be. I think the first one is, you just even think, did you mention company car? Yeah. So the first one is obviously the BIK. You go from a 20-ish% down to 5%.
So that's benefit in kind. That's the percentage of the purchase value of the car.
Purchase value of the car, yeah.
And that's an annual thing, right?
Yeah, that's an annual thing. So that immediately you see huge savings off your tax bracket. Yeah. And then you add in, if you're a London driver, you've got no congestion charge. Yeah. I know Sadiq Khan, he's really big on his green city. Yeah. So we could expect that congestion charge to increase or more charges to come in, you don't know. And then you've got your VED, so that's your annual car tax or road tax, I would say. Yeah. Which is currently being set now for £140 for anyone, unless you're a full eco driver. So the Renault Zoe would be zero. Yeah. Whereas your average diesel or petrol, you're paying £140 a year. Yeah. It all stacks up.
Yeah. So don't knock it till you've tried it. But so my short impression of this little Renault Zoe is it's a proper lippy little car. I think it looks great. It's clearly, if you were doing lots and lots of business miles, this is not the car for you.
No, it wouldn't be good.
If you were doing short, sharp journeys, if you had a 10 or 20 mile commute to work every day, I think this would be a cracking little car. So I think we head back and jump into something else.
Sounds good.
Cool. So that was the little Renault Zoe, a lovely little car. It's not the sportiest of drives, I must say. However, they range price-wise from just a smidge over 15 grand up to just under 30 grand, depending upon spec. They've got a range of about 250 miles, and what's really impressive is you can get 80% of charge in about half an hour. So that is a really, really compelling little car for round town driving. Now, the next car I want to take out is the eGolf. Looks like a Golf from all angles, except there's no engine in there. This is a pure electric vehicle. So let's jump inside and take this one up the road. Nice weather out here, but you jump in this car and it just looks like a Golf in here. It's the same layout, but there is one big difference. When you turn the key, you get a bong, you stick it in drive, and off we go. There's no engine, and I've said this every time I drive an electric car. You think, where's the engine noise? But apart from that, this is in every way, shape and form the driving feel of a Golf. However, let's get it out on the road and just talk about what this car's like to drive, a little bit of information about you know, the kind of the usability factor. But if you wanted sometimes, I don't know, maybe people, you might want to buy an electric car and people not necessarily know it's an electric car, and if that's the case, this car's for you. Well, first things first to be said about this car is it's much more nippy than that little Renault Zoe. In fact, in these wet conditions, if you put the throttle down too hard, then you actually break traction because there's so much instant torque. It's got a much more punchy, sporty feel to it. The weather's turning foul. We've got nasty rain, but let's just kind of have a drive out. So there we go, a little bit of wheel spin. So lots of torque. A more, dare I say it, petrol or diesel feeling drive. Now these are a little bit more expensive, so these start from around £30,000. Now performance wise, although it's got a lot of low down punchy torque, 0 to 60 time is over 10 seconds, and actually the top speed of this car is only 84 miles an hour. Now I know that's more than the legal speed limit in the UK, but actually for a lot of town driving and a lot of short journeys that would be ample. And I quite like this. It just feels like a Golf. Range wise, interestingly, not quite as much range as the little Zoe, about 150 miles range. But again, the average journey, you know, if you had, I don't know, a 50-mile journey to work every day, you're still going to be able to go there and back and have a bit of range left. Charge it overnight while you're at home. Happy days. Really usable car. Clearly, if you're going to do a journey that's more than 150 miles, you just need to stop, have a coffee, let the car charge over, while if you find a charging station where you can stop over, and just change your behaviour. But yeah, eGolf, I'd like to spend more time in this. Very impressive. So that's two EVs driven, both very different from each other, but I think it's time to head back and jump into one of the plug-in hybrids. I think we jump into the Hyundai Ioniq, because it's a very different kind of driving experience. This is not funny, people. This is British summertime at its best. Absolutely horrendous weather. So here we are in the Hyundai Ioniq. Now, first thing first, you've got an engine start-stop, which is fairly normal stuff. It is a hybrid, so the engine's not going to start, but the one thing that, the first time you drive one of these, just a top tip so you don't look like a complete fool, the handbrake is actually operated by your left foot, a little bit like some Mercedes have that too. So I'm just going to stick it into drive, I'm going to disengage the handbrake, and off we go. So this is a plug-in hybrid. Now I guess the important thing to say about plug-in hybrids, and I'm kind of going from a base of trying to tell you even obvious stupid things, is it's called a plug-in hybrid because you're meant to plug it in. So the idea here is overnight you'd plug this in and it would charge the battery, and that means that when you get into it the battery has full charge, and then it will operate in one of, I guess, three modes really. You can have it in pure electric mode, you can have it in electric and engine working together, but then ultimately if that battery runs out, then the petrol engine has to take over and run on its own. So if you do the plug-in part, that at least means that you're going to have the electric assistance or EV mode available as much as possible. Now interestingly, this car has been used quite a bit today, so it doesn't have a huge amount of electric charge left. So I am going to start to notice the internal combustion engine kicking in. Now, today's really spurred me on. I really want to try and drive more of these cars and bring them to you. So what I'm going to try and do is approach the different manufacturers of the cars that I've had a very quick sample of today and have a longer test and really try and get to understand what they're like to live with. First impressions of this. Now, you may well have seen my i30N review I did recently, and from that I've become a really big fan of Hyundai cars. They have a hugely impressive warranty. The interiors are far, far better than you would maybe give them credit for, and this is a really nice place to sit. It's a really grown-up feeling car, and certainly of all the choices that we've driven today, perhaps if you're doing the longer drives, the more time behind the wheel, a hybrid or plug-in hybrid may well be the better option for you. All I would say is be wary when you look at the mile per gallon figures that are quoted by manufacturers. You might not instantly get that from the car, because often they're taken over a longer period of time where the car would be running in a combination of electric and hybrid mode. As I said, there are electric, hybrid and plug-in hybrid variants of the Ioniq, and they range from kind of 20 to around £30,000 depending on specification. So, you know, actually a pretty good price point for a car of this type, and certainly I think the styling on the outside is really nice, and it looks nice on the inside, and it certainly drives really, really well. Where you certainly gain with this car is size. It's the biggest of the three cars I've driven. We started off with a Zoe, a small, punchy little city car, not a great deal of space in the back. Then we went to a Golf, standard Golf size, good hatchback size, room enough for 4 adults, maybe 5 at a push. But in the back of this car, you've certainly got a good amount of space and a good amount of boot space, good rear visibility, so maybe a more practical family car. And I guess that's what you need to consider as well if you're thinking about this as your company car. If you've got a family, that's going to really dictate the choice in terms of size and practicality. So as the weather is so utterly awful, it really has taken a turn for the worse today. I think we head back to Willmott Dixon's offices, and I give you my final thoughts of what's been a really, really interesting day. Certainly enjoyed experiencing the different cars, and hopefully just giving you a little bit of different content, something different to think about. So next stop, let's get back to the car park. Well, there we go. Just as the weather turns absolutely foul, but I thought I'd bring the video to a close here. Now, actually, all the cars aren't here because some of them have been taken away on test drives, but I really hope you enjoyed that slightly different video from me. I've certainly really enjoyed getting behind the wheel of some of these cars, and certainly talking to the guys here around the whole sustainability argument. It's one statement from a company to say that we're carbon neutral, and that is certainly laudable and a really big and difficult thing to do. But it costs you money, so to be able to reduce the amount of carbon that you emit as a company is a really big thing, and one of the ways you can do that is to encourage your drivers into different types of cars, and the weather's certainly not helping me today. Anyway, I want to say a huge thank you to all the guys at Willmott Dixon for inviting me along today. It's been a really, really interesting and thoroughly enjoyable day. I am now going to try and get access to some of these cars from manufacturers, so if you want me to do that, please put something in the comments, especially if there's particular electric or hybrid vehicles you would like me to drive. But I'm going to end on that note because I'm getting absolutely soaking wet. I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have done so, give me a thumbs up. Comments below are always welcome, and if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to Petrol for plenty more content to come from a very, very wet and soggy Willmott Dixon office in Cobham. I will see you on the next film, guys. You take care. Drive safe.